My name is Amy. I'm the founder of Kitsby, and I was born and raised in Queens, New York. How I got into baking was basically my dad was a chef, and he opened up restaurants in the Lower East Side. He told me to make a dessert for his steak restaurant, and I decided to make a basic Philadelphia cream cheese cheesecake. And he got my first stand mixer for me for my 16th birthday, I believe. And since then, I've been baking. Why did I pick the cheesecake? Was basically because my dad really likes cheesecake, and I always wanted a heavy dessert because it was kind of like a steakhouse meal, and I knew I wanted to end off with like a citrus note, so I had like a lemon cheesecake bar. People really liked it, so they ordered from me every week. What was interesting is I didn't bake at all when I was in college, and that was kind of where I came up with the idea for Kitsby. It was when I was in my dorm room and we were trying to make an apple pie, and I went to the grocery store and it costed $35 to buy all the ingredients for an apple pie. But then the grocery store I went to actually had the apple pie on sale for like $11.99. So I thought to myself, there's no point for me as a college student to have so many ingredients in my pantry, and I felt like a lot of it was going to waste. So that's kind of why I started Kitsby and started baking more. The first kit I made was our beta test. It was our chocolate truffle trio, which is something we brought back this year for Valentine's Day. But it was really fun because it wasn't really baking related, but it was confectionery related. So you're making these little chocolate truffle balls and covering them with chocolate candy melts, and they were delicious. People really liked them. I really liked that it was very interactive. You can do it with your kids, with your spouse, anybody else, like with your friends. So the process behind making a Kitsby kit is basically we focus or hone into one or two specific flavors or regions, countries that we want to focus on, because baking is one big part of Kitsby, but the other part would be cultural education. We're trying to educate people so that they become global citizens of any magnitude, basically, with our ingredients. So one of the kits that we came out with was the matcha cream puff, and it's a spin on a regular pâte cream puff with a crackling on top, very Japanese style. The matcha actually comes from a small tea farm in Uji, Kyoto, or Uji, which is actually next to Kyoto, and it's called Obubu Tea Farms, and we love working with them because literally 2 tea farmers run the show for the entire operation, and they have like 20 different teas that they harvest every single year. So the fact that we can share our story being Asian American as well as their story being a really small Japanese tea farm, and coming together, celebrating their teas and their matchas, we decided that was a really great way for us to show their story and show the world that they have incredible quality for their matcha. What brought us to creating these kits with home bakers and people who are just very passionate about baking was I realized that on Facebook, there was a really huge trend amongst subtle Asian traits, which is really interesting for me as an Asian American. Growing up, I always tried to hide my Asianness with all of my friends, especially growing up in Queens because I was in a more secluded school where I was one of maybe 5 or 6 Asian people. And we decided to create this contest so that people who were interested in baking had these opportunities or a platform to show their skills and kind of show like their passion and their livelihoods, because a lot of baking has to do with your nostalgia and your childhood and thinking back to flavors that remind you of home and even your parents or grandparents and family. So we partnered up with Subtle Asian Cooking, which is a very big platform on Facebook. They have lots of different creators, home bakers, even professional bakers or cooks who actually go on there and publish their recipes just for fun. We partnered with them because we wanted to find an outlet to be able to find very talented cooks and bakers and people in the industry who are looking to break into the industry but don't really have the means to, or if they have like a 9-to-5 job, this was a really good opportunity for them to kind of explore. It was super exciting to see people get involved because we didn't really know how much interest we would gauge, but to see a lot of people who don't really post on their normal day-to-day basis on the Facebook group, they were like a little bit shy, but then they kind of gave it their all and decided, hey, why not just try this out and see where it goes, because I do have the passion for baking. There was a lot of submissions and we didn't really know how to go about it, but what was great was Subtle Asian Cooking, the admin members decided, hey, why not give the public a say for this and for them to pick the top 10, which we thought was a great idea, just because that way everybody has a chance, like a fair chance of winning. And after they picked the top 10, we picked from the top 10 the top 3 people, or the top 3 bakers, to give the opportunity to create a kit with us. That was really fun because we tried all 10 recipes and we decided based off of their story, like the nostalgia behind their specific recipes. For example, we've never had a Korean American inspired recipe before, so that was really exciting to have these Hotteok cookies. It was extremely difficult to pick the winners because everybody was so talented and all the recipes were so unique and interesting. We partnered with Emily, who made the Yuenyeung Dalgona Tiramisu, and that's really exciting for me because Yuenyeung is a drink that's hybrid of milk tea and coffee. So the way we composed the dessert was a vanilla sponge cake that's soaked in black tea, and then the Dalgona whipped topping on top just to act as the mascarpone filling. Yuenyeung is something that's really popular in Hong Kong, and ever since I was little, we'd go back to Hong Kong in the summers, and that was one drink that I had to have every single time I went to something called cha chanting, which is basically a tea house. People would go there for breakfast or lunch. It was really delicious. So we partnered with Shihan on a Jasmine shortbread cookie, and it's kind of like a shortbread, but it's actually based off a langue de chat cookie, which translates to cat's tongue cookie. And they're very thin, delicate, and crispy. Sandwiched between 2 cookies was a peach jam with some whipped cream. It was a delicious combination and kind of reminds me of bubble tea because peach jasmine green tea is one of my favorites of all time. And if I ever go to a bubble tea shop, that's something that I would always order. So we partnered with Janice, who made the Hotteok Cookies. Hotteok is a very traditional Korean sweet pancake that's filled with brown sugar and nuts, all this deliciousness. And she decided to put an American spin on it and made it a cookie instead of a pancake. So the version that she made has hazelnuts in it and brown sugar. It's absolutely delicious. We partnered with Lisa to create this coconut kinoko chocolate pie. Kinoko is one of my favorite ingredients, soybean powder that's been roasted. And every kind of Asian country has its own rendition of this powder. But the one we decided to go with was Japanese, and I love it because of its nuttiness. It's really good on ice cream or anything cold. Kinoko is a great ingredient because it could be used in sweet and savory recipes, and we decided to go with a kinoko custard for this one. So what really inspired me to bring together all of these chefs and home bakers together to make these kits in celebration of Asian American Heritage Month is based off of my childhood. I was always apprehensive of my own Asian American identity. And as Asian Americans now, we are technically creating our own culture as we speak. It's not something that was given to us or like taught to us because the generations before us never really had Asian American culture. This is really important to me because having these specific values and really understanding and showing other people and teaching and guiding them about what Asian American nostalgia really means to me is one of my biggest goals in life. Kitsby's entire team is of Asian American descent, and we're all super proud of our cultures. Even though we do come from different places and speak different languages, we all kind of unite together as Asian Americans to try to bring an experience to other people that they can enjoy. In light of all of the tragic events that has been happening around the world, targeting Asian Americans, we've decided to give back 15% of all proceeds to Asian American Relief Fund. And the reason we decided to do that is because we hold our heritage very near and dear to our heart. So we want to be able to do something to say, hey, yes, we're Asian Americans, and it feels empowering to be in the position to be able to give back as a small company, because we started with recipes that excite us in terms of bringing back nostalgia or even kind of honing in on some of my own personal travels. And to be able to give back right now to the community that needs it the most is really heartwarming for me. The thing that I'm most excited about for you to experience with these kits is definitely the people that are around you who are making these kits with you, or if you're making this for somebody, because a lot of these flavors are some of my childhood favorites. For example, peach jasmine tea, or even Dalgona coffee. That's delicious. I'm really happy and excited to share these flavors and these experiences with you.